Hello, and welcome to my podcast. I've been putting this off for so long, and I woke up. It's Sunday morning, and I have absolutely nothing to do today. So I was like, Sydney, you know what? We're just going to record a podcast episode because I've been procrastinating it for so long, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think I'm very much a perfectionist. So I feel like in my head, I'm like, unless I know that it's going to be perfect and I know exactly what I'm going to say, I don't want to record it. But I can't live like that because then you never get anything done. So we're just going to roll with the punches and we're going to record this and see where it goes. And if it's not perfect, that's okay because life isn't perfect. So, welcome to episode 1 of my podcast. Happy to be here. I have had happy to be here in my bio in Instagram and TikTok for a while. So I thought naturally it was fitting to be the podcast title because it just reminds me that no matter what's going on, no matter what anxieties I have or things that are stressing me out, I'm ultimately still happy to be here and very blessed and grateful to be alive and on this planet and experiencing life. So, starting off on the positive note, I did just get out of the hospital. I was in the hospital 2 weeks ago for the same exact thing, but basically my symptoms were just I couldn't keep food down and I'm already immunocompromised. So when it gets to be really severe, my doctor tells me to go to the ER just in case because you never know what can happen. And if you're immunocompromised, you're obviously at greater risk of something worse occurring to you. But let me back up a minute because I just jumped straight into my weekend. Let me talk about who I am if you don't know. Hi, my name is Sydney. I go by Sid Toll online. I know a lot of people think it's Towel, but it is Toll, like a toll booth. I have been doing TikTok for about 5 years, I think since 2019. Really, since COVID started. I remember during COVID, I started posting TikToks because I was bored and it was honestly a joke when I started because I would just do some dances and I was living with my brother at the time and he was like, oh, haha, like you're gonna go viral overnight, whatever. And then I made like a couple TikToks and they started blowing up. So it's kind of a joke now because when I started, it was obviously a joke. And then now it has become a very, very meaningful way for me to share my story and to connect with people. Yeah, so I started TikTok about 5 years ago and I've just been doing it for fun over the course of college and since coming out of college and moving to LA. Mostly just silly TikToks, just me like lip syncing and sometimes sharing life stories, but it really transformed for me when I was diagnosed with cancer last year because I started sharing my story and it really connected with a lot of people. And from that, I've been able to grow an audience and connect with people on the basis of my diagnosis and sharing my story and providing hope, I guess, for people and comfort. A lot of people have messaged me that they have a family member going through cancer or a serious illness and that my videos have helped them in some way. And so that has meant ultimately the world to me because all I've ever wanted to do is make a positive impact on the world. And even if this is a very small way, it just means so much to me that I'm able to do that and that I can connect with people like that in such a special way. But anyway, going back to my story, last August I was diagnosed with cholangiocarcinoma, which is cancer of the bile ducts. Mine, however, had spread to my liver, and your bile ducts are like sit right on top of your liver, so it's very, very close, the spread. It's a very, very rare and aggressive form of cancer that mainly affects people over the age of 50, so it is pretty rare for someone, especially my age, to have gotten this sort of cancer. And so I remember when I got that diagnosis, I'd never heard of cholangiocarcinoma before. And when I tell people now, even nurses in the hospital, they're like, oh, I've never even heard of that because it is just such a rare form of cancer. Yeah, so I got that diagnosis in August and I started chemo, I believe, the first week of September. And then I received chemo for a few months and got a liver resection in January and my gallbladder removed. So they removed like 80% of my liver because I had a very, very large tumor sitting on my liver. It encompassed like a majority of it. So they had to remove most of my liver and my gallbladder and some lymph nodes in my abdomen. And then I recovered for like a month. I couldn't really walk too well because they pretty much cut open your entire abdomen. And so I had to work on walking, and that took a lot of mental strength because I'm a very active person and I love to constantly be doing things, hiking, running, yoga, and I was pretty much bedridden. So that was very tough. But now I'm back to a place where I'm physically able to do everything I was before. And the plan after getting surgery was to get 2 more months of chemo. So 6 months total because I got 4 months before. But that did not end up happening because I got one round of chemo and then every single week I went back, my numbers were too low to get chemo, which basically means that your white blood cell counts or some sort of count is below a certain threshold to where if you were to get chemo, it would ruin too much of your healthy cells. Like it would just, there'd be no point to it because you'd be too sick um, to even be able to like respond positively to chemo, if that makes sense. However, the structure of my treatment was 3 weeks on, 1 week off. But on the first week, I got chemotherapy and immunotherapy. And immunotherapy is a much less severe form of treatment. It doesn't make you lose hair. It doesn't have all the negative side effects, basically, of chemotherapy. And so you can get it typically if you can't get chemo. And so I got immunotherapy twice. And then I was in the hospital a couple weeks ago with what I mentioned before, the nausea, vomiting, stuff like that. Don't want to go into too much detail, it's TMI. But I couldn't keep anything down, so I went to the hospital and they gave me an antibiotic. I was there for 4 or 5 days and then they let me go. And they didn't really get to the bottom of it too much. They were like, okay, like you're starting to get better. You can go home now. And I was like, okay, great. I felt better. Everything was great. And then the next week, I couldn't sleep at all. And I don't know if this is related at all. These could all be related. This could not be related. But the next week, I couldn't sleep at all. I had really, really bad insomnia. No matter what I did, I took sleeping pills. I took melatonin. I took just a bunch of different brands, a bunch of different things that I tried. I tried reading all night, tried everything. And I just could not sleep. I went several days without sleeping. And my doctor eventually prescribed me Ambien, and then at the end of that week, I slept. Then I was like, okay, great, I slept. I had one day where I felt great. The very next day, the symptoms came back of the nausea, vomiting, couldn't keep anything down. And as soon as it started, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the same thing again because I never had this specific feeling when being sick before. It was just a very weird feeling in my stomach, in the way I ate. Like it felt like I had food poisoning, but every single time I ate and for like a week straight. And I didn't have a fever and chills. I don't know. It was a very, very weird reaction. And so I called my doctor, my oncologist, and he was like, go back to the hospital. So that was this week. I went back to the ER. I waited for 7 hours in the Los Angeles ER, which was insane. I was going a little bit crazy. But I was like, you know what? It's not going to get any better if I leave. The only solution really is to grind this out. So I stayed, went to the hospital, was there again for another 5 or 6 days. I just got out last night. And again, they did a bunch of tests. They did a full endoscopy, colonoscopy. So they put a scope in your body and your intestines to see what's going on. And they said they didn't find anything super concerning. So that is good, but at the same time, it means what they told me is that it's a result of the immunotherapy, which means that I can't get immunotherapy. So at this point, I'm kind of just like, what's the alternative? Like, I don't really have another treatment plan. So I'm going to have to talk to my oncologist and see what we're going to do because there is, after surgery, there was still some cancer left. They got like the giant tumor that was on my liver, but there was still residual cancer cells. And so I'm wondering what we're going to do going forward because we need some sort of plan, obviously, because cancer spreads, cancer cells multiply, which is why you have to get treatment over time. So I'm curious what's going to happen with that. But obviously, I don't know. I'm not in a negative headspace about it. I've always thought that everything happens for a reason. So I'll take that with this as well and assume that everything happens for a reason and that something good is going to come out of this and we'll find another solution, you know? But anyway, moving on from all of that, part of the podcast structure that I wanted to do is doing through the 3 L's is what I'm going to call them. So it's going to be my weekly loves, my weekly learnings, and my weekly look aheads. So something I'm looking forward to. So my loves of recent, the first one is Shark Tank. I absolutely love Shark Tank. I always have. I think, honestly, I don't even remember when I started watching it. When I was very young, I started watching it, and I've always been obsessed with it. And I was never like a business person. I was not an econ major. I have never super been into finances or stocks or anything like that, but I just love the idea of entrepreneurship and the creativity that goes behind so many of the ideas on the show. And I have always wanted to be on the show. So constantly, like, especially when I can't sleep, I am just constantly thinking of Shark Tank ideas. And that's what I was doing in the hospital too. I was just nonstop watching Shark Tank and trying to think of ideas. But it's hard, which I guess is why not many entrepreneurs are successful. But one day we'll get there. I'll think of something. Don't you worry. So if you see me on Shark Tank one day, just know my dream's been accomplished. My other love of the week is matcha. I, so backstory, I have a Sid Sips LA account on Instagram, and I go around reviewing coffee, matcha, boba places in Los Angeles and if I'm traveling other places. But I only recently discovered boba. Like 2 months ago, I discovered boba for the first time. And I know I am so late to the trend. All my friends have said that. They're like, Sydney, boba has been around for so long. Like, you are so behind on this. But I don't know why. I'd never like really thought of it or paid any mind or whatever. But then I tried it a couple months ago and I was like, oh my gosh, I love boba. I love boba. And I know a lot of people don't like the like tapioca. I call them balls, pearls, however you want to say it. I love them. I think they're so fun. And I love that you can get so many different tea flavors. And there's just so many different places to try and customizations to do. And they're so pretty. And I just love the experience. I think it's so fun. And I love reviewing places. I definitely don't have like a large following or anything on my reviewing account, but it's just so fun to me. And it's also such a good way to connect with people. Like, if people ask me if I want to go get coffee or matcha or boba because they know that we could put it on Sid Sips, it's such a good excuse to like hang out with someone, catch up with someone. It's just so fun. And I love doing it. And I love talking to people. And I love getting to know people. And I think it's just such a great point of connection. So that's my favorite of forever is Sid Sips. But my favorite of the moment is matcha because I had been doing boba for the past couple months and kind of forgot that matcha was a thing and then had a couple good recent matchas and was like, oh my gosh, this is really good. And a lot of people hate on it. They're like, matcha tastes like grass, but that's because you're not getting the right type of matcha. You just have to go to a place that makes really good matcha. I like really sweet stuff, so I get like really sweet matcha lattes, and it's so good. So trust me, if you say you don't like it, you just haven't tried the right matcha for you, okay? Or maybe you just don't like it, and that's okay too. We don't all have to love the same things, you know? Okay, a learning of this week is this too shall pass, and that's not really a learning. That is a mantra that I really enjoy reminding myself of because it is incredibly true. If you think about any bad experience you've had in life, if you think of any time you've been really sick or really sad or you've just been really struggling, you've always gotten out of that place. And it may take you longer sometimes to overcome something, but you do overcome it. You have overcome 100% of your worst days. And I love reminding myself of that when I'm having a really, really tough time because it just reminds me that nothing is permanent and any sort of sadness or loneliness I'm feeling is only temporary. And so I can feel that and I'm allowed to feel that, but I can't dwell on it because once you dwell on it and once you hold on to it is when it starts to consume you. So you have to just let yourself feel it, know it's temporary, and let it pass on. I heard something on a podcast that was like, emotions are energy in motion. And so you have to let your emotions just pass through you because it is energy in motion and it will keep going. But if you hold on to it, if you resist it, then you're stopping that energy and you're keeping it pent up in your body. And so you can't let it you can't let it build up. You just got to let it keep flowing and keep going because that is how it's meant to be and that is how you will get through things. And I definitely had to repeat that to myself several times while I was in the hospital this week because I got to several points where I was like, I cannot keep doing this. I cannot keep doing this. And it's hard when you're alone, especially in a hospital room. It's like, how am I going to get past this point? But you do. And you just have to accept your situation for what it is and know that it will pass because that's what I had to do. I was like, okay, I'm stuck in this hospital room. How can I make the most of this? Or how can I just relax? How can I just sit here and know that this is temporary and so I should enjoy this period of relaxation before I go back to normal life, you know? So sometimes you just have to let things go and release any control you have on the situation, which is definitely easier said than done. My look aheads, I really want to start playing beach volleyball, especially now that the weather is getting nice in Los Angeles. I'm not good at volleyball by any means. I am tall, so I have that advantage, but I just love like communal activities that get you outside. That sounds like so silly, but like I love hiking, I love run club, I love surf club. Like I love just communal things that get you outside. Also, sorry, my voice is like kind of gravelly. I'm definitely probably dehydrated. I'm trying to speak not too gravelly, but hopefully it's not too annoying. I'm sorry. Um, and I'll try to drink more water next time. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to hopefully playing beach volleyball more. But yeah, and it's good to just like spend time doing wholesome activities that aren't around your phone and technology and stuff like that because I've had such a bad habit, especially this week while I was in the hospital, of just being on my phone constantly. And I definitely notice, that I feel like my anxiety and like mental health isn't as good when I'm spending a ton of time on my phone. Obviously, that makes sense, that tracks. Everyone knows that. But it's much easier to not be on your phone when you have activities to take up your time with other people that involve other activities. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I've talked a lot this podcast episode, and I just wanted to give kind of my vision for where I want this to go, I guess, because I've been yapping, and giving you guys a lot of backstory and a lot of random details, but I haven't really said what this podcast is going to be about, which I don't necessarily have to because sometimes you can just put things out there and you don't have to have a plan for them, and it can just be whatever you're feeling in the moment. And that's kind of what this episode is. But my vision overall for the podcast is to share insights that I've learned since being diagnosed with cancer, because I know a lot of you guys probably follow me on TikTok, and a lot of people have been commenting on my videos saying I should start a podcast to share my insights and little nuggets of wisdom that I've kind of taken on since this diagnosis, because it really does force you to reconsider life and to reconsider what's important to you. And I feel like my mentality and my mindset on so many things has changed so vastly. I am such a completely different person than I was like 6 to 8 months ago, especially a year ago or 2 years ago. Oh my gosh. When I look back at my college memories, I am like, oh, I was so unwell, which I will definitely talk about in future episodes. I would love to talk about that because my college experience was very rough and tumultuous. And so I would love to share my insights, especially if there are any younger people who listen to this, because I have a lot to say about college and about high school and growing up. But regardless, I am a much different person than I was a year ago because of, I think, the amount I've had to consider life and what's important to me and change my value system and morals, and especially with not drinking as much and changing the sort of activities I do and who I hang out with and things like that. I feel like it's really just put in a lot of things into perspective, and I would love to be able to share those perspectives with other people and hopefully inspire other people to live life more fully and not holding back so much. Because I don't know, I talk to a lot of my friends and family and stuff now, and now I'm just like, don't stay in situations that make you upset. And I've always, thought that, but especially now. So I'm such an advocate for don't stay in situations that make you upset. So, all that being said, I just want to share my perspectives and touch on a variety of different topics like alcohol, navigating friendships, navigating family, because my family dynamics have changed a lot over the past few months as well. Finding your purpose, finding your why, which I'm definitely still struggling with, but I think I've thought about it so much that I'm a little bit more well versed now in how to find your purpose and how to find what makes you happy. And yeah, so touching on all of those different topics. And I would love to have guests from my personal life on here, as well as maybe like guests that are famous one day. But I think that the people in our lives have so much to share and so much valuable knowledge. Especially just thinking about all the people in my life. I'm like, they all have such unique perspectives and stories that I think would be so interesting to share with the world. So I would love to have people on like weekly or bi weekly to share their knowledge as well and what they've learned and their passions for life. Because I think also just hearing other people's passions can ignite your own and can inspire you to find what matters most to you as well. So that is my vision. That is the journey I see for this podcast. I don't have any set structure or format or cadence. I would also obviously love to post weekly, twice weekly. I don't know. I think now that I have this first episode out of the way, hopefully it will mean that I've gotten past this mental hurdle and I will just start wanting to make more. But I needed to just get this first one out of the way and not set any expectations and release any control I have over it and just let it be exactly what it is. And I guess that's a good lesson for you guys, for anything that you're thinking about starting or that you want to do. just release expectations and just start. So just start whatever you want to start. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out because everything that's meant to be will be, and you will be okay. And on that note, I think I will end it here and edit this podcast. I did video because I'm going to upload it to YouTube, I think, as well, just if people want to watch. But I am looking pretty bad right now. But this light is very harsh and I'm not feeling myself 100% right now. That's okay. I'm still going to upload it because we're releasing expectations. So I'm going to upload this to YouTube after I edit it and Spotify, hopefully. And yeah, we shall see. And oh, yes, please feel free to comment any suggestions you have or any topics you'd like me to discuss, or literally comment anything, any thoughts you have. I would love to hear them. I love reading comments from you guys, messages from you guys. I love connecting with you guys. So, love you. I hope you have the best week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.